There's quite a crowd build-up here on Rink 2. Behind us, Philly, Denver finishing. And it looks like there's an unofficial final, so we're not going to reveal that score just yet over here. But Rink 2, the tension is mounting.
Everybody is lined up, and of course with these two teams, we normally see them start here the past year and change or so in the scrum start. We're going to see a lot of that today. It's going to be a battle of who can deal with that strategy best.
And that is number 340, Bonnie Thunders, on the jammer line for Gotham.
And that looks like White Flight for Rose City and here we go. Through quickly, White Flight breaks before she even gets to the pivot line, lead jam Rose City.
Bonnie Thunders close behind her on the inside line. Pack forming at the front, three wall and rear now forming at the rear. Looks like a little bit of runting going on at the back. OMG at the back. That's 1 point for Scald, and she calls it. So Rose City on the board first.
There you go, and you can see how White Flight was turned around looking for that timing. She didn't want Gotham on the board at all, even though she had clear advantage. I bet we're going to have a lot of this today, Double H. Here we go into Jam 2.
Susie Hot Rod jamming for Gotham.
And that is number 20, of course, course sulfuric acid for Rose City. She gets through. Nice move towards the outside lead jam for the Wheels of Justice.
Susie Hot Rod still working that back three. Looks like a four wall from here. White and purple doing a great job defensively, but she makes it up through the front. Good inside defense at the front from Gotham.
Susie makes it through, but so does Sulfuric. Almost does not pass the last blocker or two. Gets, no, she does. She gets 4 points on that pass. That is the end of Jam 2.
So that's 5 points total for Rose City. 1 from White Flight, 4 from Sulfuric Acid. 5 points, 28-20 to go.
No one in the penalty box as of yet. Both these teams have played pretty clean here of late. As always, we will see how penalties affect things. But talk about affecting things. Scald Eagle on the line for Rose City.
Bonnie Thunders jamming for Gotham, trying to work that, break up that three wall at the front. She is now it's a two wall, and she is around on the outside to become lead jammer for Gotham.
Bonnie Thunders is just an amazing jammer, and she gets through very quickly. Meanwhile, Gotham is holding a two-wall up front and doing a good job of holding back Sulfuric Acid. She gets pushed out by fisticuffs, has to re-engage from the back of the pack.
Meanwhile, Rose City walling up again, trying to keep Bonnie Thunders. Bonnie trying to look for, she jukes past, through on the inside, and that looks like a 5-point pass for Bonnie Thunders. Gotham striking back.
Now it looks like Scald Eagle goes down. She is limbering quite a bit on the outside of the track. Not a good sign. I don't believe she was called off for a penalty. She looks hurt.
And that is a low block major for Bonnie Thunders. This is a power jam. However, it looks as though we have an injured jammer on the bench for Rose City.
Yeah, Double H, that was not a penalty. She took herself off of the track. So inadvertent power jam. Then we have no jammer on the track. The jammer for Gotham win. I didn't see the call, Double H, but
that was a low block on Bonnie Thunders.
I'm sorry, low block.
Sending her to the penalty box, yep.
So you said that while I was talking about Scald. She's being helped by the EMT, so rare occasion that you do not see a jammer on the track at all.
This is bringing me back to 2009, the Jammerless Jam.
Jammerless Jam. And really unfortunate for Rose, because Scald Eagle, very well known for her abilities, took herself off. She's getting attended to. We'll see if we can get an update, but they're going to have to do it without her, and what do? You line up White Flight for Rose.
White Flight, of course, put that first point on the board in the first jam, and this is a power jam for her.
White Flight trying to make her way. She's up against three. The rest of her team is letting her do the battle for herself. She gets knocked down by Hyperlinks, then makes her way through. Does not get lead jam because of a minor track cut.
Of course, her former teammate, Mick Swagger, doing a good job at the front, four-walling it up, now working for Gotham.
White Flight in the back stretch, two to compete. She got the pivot up front trying to help break up that pack now. Gotham dominating the front wall. White Flight looking like she's waiting for a hole to open there.
I think that's absolutely what she's waiting for. She's not going to find it, but that looks like a block to the head. Major call for OMG. She's shaking her head as she goes to the box.
Hyperlink's doing some big hits on White Flight, but the very agile jammer for Rose still trying to bide her time, but she's getting knocked around. Big hit again, and then a huge hit from number 5. That, of course, is Mel Mangles.
And that's Bonnie Thunders, who came out of the box to become lead jammer in that jam. White Flight having yet to break through. Bonnie Thunders now on her scoring pass, trying to break up that 3-wall. Excellent defense at the front by Rose City. She finally jumps past, and that was a full 5 points. She passed all of those 3 skaters legally, Chip.
Absolutely, and naturally got that Grand Slam finally out, and also scoring 5 points is White Flight. Picked up that ghost point when Bonnie Thunders was still in the box.
The ghost point. Bonnie Thunders one more time, and that was 4 points for Bonnie Thunders.
As you see Rob Lobster run out to the referees, has something to discuss with them as the teams line back up.
Speaking of Lobster, Wicked Skatewear, that was my New England segue. Wicked Skatewear, we peed in the pool. I'm not so sure that I believe them, but wickedskatewear.com. Wow, Wicked Skatewear. I had a score of Gotham 15, Rose City 10.
Just about 24 minutes to go. Jam number 5, Sulfuric Acid. On the inside, hops, skips through, and gets lead jam. Meanwhile, not able to break through the pack for Gotham.
That's Slam DeFage. Slam DeFage, I was wondering when she was going to get jammed. She is one of the more prolific newer jammers on their roster. Not necessarily new to the East region. She is being worked heavily into the rotation and has done a phenomenal job. That's an out of play at front.
Beautiful move by Sulfuric laterally. Both these teams are phenomenal. 5-point Grand Slam, Rose City.
Slam DeFage looking for an inside line. There's a back block major call on Slam DeFage. She is going to the penalty box. This is now a power jam, Rose City.
And what Rose City needs with Scald Eagle not on the track, they need to definitely take advantage where they can as Mercy goes to the penalty box
that
for
looks
Rose.
like a forearm major, Chip.
Okay. Pack slow between turns 3 and 4, approaching the the front stretch.
Gotham doing a great job with that 3-wall, just skating in all directions. Now a 2-wall though, Sulfuric slices through the inside of those 2.
Beautiful move to get the 5 points as she turns her body laterally, squeezes the Oreo between, if you will, to get through for that 5-point Grand Slam.
OMG taking a little leadership role, trying to build that 3-wall.
Sulfuric Acid having to fight against that front wall of Gotham again, and you can definitely see how these teams move so well laterally as Sulfuric Acid calls off that jam. 3 more points, Rose.
I want to talk about Slam DeFage for a moment. She was a very prolific jammer when she came down to the city of Sisterly Shove earlier in June. Gotham came down to battle the Liberty Bells. Gotham came out 272 to Philly 61. Slam DeFage posted 99 of those points, Chip. So I expect great things from her in this game. We'll see how they work her into the rotation.
Absolutely. Now White Flight, a prolific jammer on her own, lining up again. It's going to be a power jam as Slam DeFage waiting to bide her next time on the track after the penalty.
Here's a
White Flight in around. I don't know what that move was, but she kind of hooked onto her player and moved her over the line.
I don't know if that was an out-of-bounds assist, but her skates never touched the inside, so it wasn't technically out of bounds.
Well, I guess I can say this now. Talking to Rob Lobster yesterday, they had a couple of new things that they were going to pull out they've been working on, and I wonder if that exactly was one of them. I wish we could see instant replay.
That was a figure skating move.
White Flight gets knocked down to the inside, then quickly comes around the outside. No, she's going off the track. She gets called for a major cut. Meanwhile, Slam DeFage is already back on the track making it through. Of course, she cannot be declared lead jammer because you can only have one of those.
She is not lead jammer, as you've said. There is a 4-wall at the back. Gotham is going to try to build a little bit of tunneling action, but She gets forced inside, slam to Phage. Now she finds a nice outside lane coming up against downed Rose skaters, struggling to get through. She finally does, and that is a 5-point pass for slam to Phage.
Battling back and forth, 23-20 here in jam number 6. Slam to Phage getting back to the pack, trying to score points. Mercy up front, trying to push her other blockers into her. Could not do what she needed to, so 5 more points for Gotham.
Great work at the front there from Rose, trying to keep her behind them as quickly as much as they possibly can. Try to burn some of that time off the clock, Chip. Even if they don't succeed in keeping her at bay, they're burning some of that time. And right now, that's all they can do. Joyride in there as well. French tickler.
Another grand slam as this jam is about to be called, and there you have it. Another lead change, 30-23. Oh man, very good derby.
Speaking of derby, ECDX2012 and WFTDA.tv would like to thank Derbyology, purveyors of the Derby Unusual. We're not crazy, we just like Derby. Derbyology.com.
All right, just about 19 minutes to go here in period number 1, day number 3 here in Feasterville, Pennsylvania at the Sportsplex. ECDX 2012. 2 top 10 matchups from opposite ends of the coast. The jam has started.
And that is Bonnie Thunders on the jammer line.
And of course that is sulfuric acid for Rose.
Bonnie Thunders through, and she is not lead jammer. She has an out of bounds block call.
Oh, and looked like maybe a low block from Hyperlinks. In fact, she skated straight off the track, knew that's what it was. Nonetheless, they stopped Scald Eagle from getting through, and she is back at the back of the pack. So Bonnie Thunders is scoring points, and yet there is no lead jammer declared.
Great recycling work there. Great recycling work from Gotham. Now there is a lead jammer. Sulfuric acid wisely calls it.
Not before 5-point advantage for Gotham, 35-28 now. Again, we are so glad you're joining us here. This Double H, this beautiful 1080p HD, as we have our monitor right next to it, is absolutely WFTDA.TV is doing amazing. Absolutely.
Right now, that's Susie Hot Rod on the jammer line. Let me try that again. Against White Flight. 2-on-2.
Hey, they're actually rolling. They're out in front. They passed the pivot line. They've naturally released the jammers now. White Flight playing a little defensive. Inside for White. She gets the lead jam as Susie gets pushed the long way to the outside. In control is Rose City.
OMG and Anabolics working on trying to help their jammer.
We got
Last Unicorn.
Got a micro pack right there with 2-on-2. Thank you for that reference, Rocker Boy.
I was going to say that's a term I haven't heard in quite a long time. White Flight snakes through and calls it for 3, I believe, on that pass.
Immediately, Endless Justin for Gotham walks out trying to get some clarification. Doesn't look like he's calling a timeout, but he was trying to clarify on something as we are just under 17 minutes here, about to head into Jam 9.
Neither one of these teams right now has actually called a timeout yet, Chip. We're at a very close score. As you said, under 17 minutes. Both timeouts still remaining. Bonnie Thunders jamming for Gotham right now. So that is sulfuric acid.
And she is lead jam. She has gotten lead jam 3 out of the 4 times she's been on the track. Bonnie Thunders has gotten 2 out of the 5 times she's been on the track. So far, Rose winning that advantage as the pack pace has definitely picked up here, Double H.
Now we're back to 3-on-3 in the pack. Sulfuric trying to get a few points on the inside. She does not manage to do so before she calls it.
Got bumped to the inside and had to call it off, so did not get anything there, as you said.
It looks from here like she's got a little bit of a scrape on her back. Lots of big derby injuries this weekend. The final score for the Philly-Denver game we will have for you in just a moment.
And hopefully if you have been watching that Philly-Denver game, you switched over to join us here. Gotham versus Rose City heading into jam number 10.
That is slam to Phage for Gotham, who is lead jammer on the outside. Meanwhile, White Flight also trying to work the outside line. Gotham 3 while doing a good job. Mick Swagger, former teammate, knocking her out of bounds.
Kick Cassidy for Rose City to the penalty box for a major penalty. White Flight stuck at the back of that 3-wall for Gotham. Meanwhile, holding the front and trying to hold back Scaldese. We've got a pile up in turn 2. And a lead jam for Gotham.
Oh, that is a 5-point pass.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yep.
5-point pass. And White Flight just goes to the penalty box for a back block. And I saw Judge Knott, I couldn't tell if it was a major or a fourth minor, but needless to say, power jam for Gotham.
Rose City out of play, forced to let Phage go. That is another 5 points for Gotham in this power jam.
And back through and around on the inside, could not hold her. 15 points so far. Now this is where the timeouts might start happening as Gotham is pulling away 50-31, which we do know is not insurmountable. But, oh, and a major back block on Scald Eagle. The referees called it, and she is going to the box.
That is Slam to Phage, who's going to the penalty box.
Oh, I'm
Gotham.
sorry. My apologies.
Gotham, tight 4-wall. OMG has White Flight behind her. Lets her go. Get pushed right out of the way. Gotham is forced to let her go in the front.
Yeah, that was hella skelter. She can only do so much. White Flight approaches the back of the pack that has not moved outside of turn 2 into the backstretch. And that is the end of the jam. And then we get an illegal procedure right at the end of the jam on the blocker for Gotham. And it looks like 4 points for Rose City.
All right, we'd like to thank a few sponsors. One of them, Cruise Skate Shop, quality skating gear, protective equipment, and information for all level of derby players, cruiseskateshop.com.
Here we go, jam number 11, just about 13 minutes to go, period number 1. Scald Eagle taking on all 4 of the blockers by herself. And there she goes, sorry, Double H makes it through lead jam Rose.
Gotham doing a great job trying to keep some semblance of pack together, even though they were still behind the pivot line. Gotham really walling it up, but trying to stay within distance of the Rose City skaters.
Slam to Phage back on the track now. She's dealing with the 4 in the back of the pack with Rose City. You've got 3 and 1 in the front, 4 and 1 in the back, and they're all slowly moving through the turns.
Hyperlinks, Donna Matrix, block it. Really working Sulfuric up at the front. Sulfuric looks like she's going to make a break for it. Still within that 20 feet, though, not getting the call yet. Really looking exasperating. Finally breaking through on that outside. That is a 5-point pass for Rose City.
What they need to get back, 12 points down, 40-52. Sulfuric has not made it through yet, and a major penalty on Mercy. She's going to the penalty box. Meanwhile, Sulfuric grasps it around the outside, and 5 more points. Just an amazing talent wearing the star.
This is the opportunity Rose City's looking for here in this half. Score of 52. Gotham, Rose City 45. Hyperlinks going down. Sulfuric going through, getting forced on the inside, comes back on the track and goes around to get the points that she needs for another Grand Slam.
2 points between these teams, so just like that, getting back into it. Now Sulfuric back up against 3, trying to work the outside against number 201. That is Sweet Sherry Pie.
Great defensive work on the back from Rose City in that jam. Devourer really, really working Gotham.
So if you're Rose City and you came out of Jam 10 and Gotham just got 3 Grand Slams, what do? You go score 3 Grand Slams plus 3 to take the lead by 1.
That's what I would do.
Of course.
WWHD.
Yes.
You know. What would Double H do? That's what I would do. Bonnie Thunders on the jammer line for Gotham.
And White Flight in again for Rose. Again, she has been lead jam every time she's been on the track except for twice.
2-on-2 pack turns into a 3-on-2 pack as Donna Matrix joins the fray.
Bonnie Thunder stuck at the back of the pack. White Flight got recycled, and lead jam goes to Gotham and slows down automatically as White Flight goes to the penalty box for a major forearm penalty. That is her third time in the penalty box, I believe. So that's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on.
Gotham stops that rear wall. That's a 3-wall at the back. Bonnie Thunders gets right past those 2 forward blockers. Rose City is still doing a great defensive job in this game.
Now a little bit of that, what I've heard is called the ducktail, and then they shift where the 3 players line up behind that front wall, and then they let their jammer kind of battle against us. We've got some major hitting going on. Mercy up there.
Along with Frankenherder doing a great job recycling Bonnie Thunders to the back. Great 2-wall defense from Rose City. Turns into a 3-wall as Heidi Gosik joins them at the front, but still Bonnie Thunders gets through. That is a 5-point pass for Bonnie Thunders.
And now you've got them coming back in. Bonnie Thunders trying to go up against basically the same set as they have not moved through turn 1. White Flight back in, trying to work the outside. She gets through. That is her first pass, of course. Bonnie Thunders also gets through, immediately calling off the jam.
Well, we predicted a very physical game, Chip Queso, and I think that we have been proven correct. Gotham 67, Rose City 53. Just under 9 minutes, and still no times out have been taken, Chip.
I think that they're not taking those times out unless they need, and both of these teams are smart enough to be able to adjust on the fly, so they're taking those precious timeouts and probably saving them for when they need them down the stretch in period number 2. But we'll see how this period ends out with just about 8 minutes and 15 seconds to go.
Susie Hot Rod jamming against sulfuric acid. Susie finds an outside line. Tries to make a break for it, tiptoes past on the inside to become lead jammer for Gotham. Sulfuric acid working the back of the pack, finds the inside line, and also makes it through the pack.
Susie Hot Rod biding her time as the front of the pack is occupied by Rose. Fisticuffs trying to break it up and help her jammer through. They're going to have to let her go pretty soon here as there's really no pack defined. And nope, they reform and they force her to call it off.
Susie Hot Rod questions, is it 4 points? Yes. Yes, that was 4 points. This is probably the closest point differential we've seen from Gotham this season. As we said before, they had played lower ranked teams like Long Island, ranked 20th. That was close to a 600-point differential. Rose City really bringing it today to steal a cheerleading turn.
Again, Bonnie Thunder's on the line for Gotham. White Flight for Rose City. White Flight trying to hit the inside. She does. She does not get lead jam for a minor forearm again. Again, she's got to watch the penalties here, Double H.
Great work from Mercy and Devour at the front of the pack, keeping Bonnie Thunders at bay while their jammer gets through. Bonnie Thunders makes it through, calls it, trying to stop the damage. Well, speaking of Rose City, they are hosting Derby Days Boot Camp, a bad boot camp by the Rose City Rollers, August 24th through 26th in Portland, Oregon. RoseCityRollers.com. Check it out for Derby Days. I would like to spend some time with the Wheels of Justice, learning from them.
Now we've started the jam again. Again, it's sulfuric acid, and it looks like new to their team from Boston, like they need to refill the coffers. That is Claire DeWay. Gets lead jam, just getting to the Gotham team within the last couple of months, I think.
A lot of that conversation that we had earlier about Gotham wanting to give opportunities to some of their roster, really strengthening the depth of their roster. This is one of those opportunities. Claire DeWay, as you've said, from the Boston Massacre. Looking for an outside line, finds it, tiptoes through, and she did not make it through. She got a major cut. She is going to the penalty box. Sulfuric acid has an opportunity here. Power jam Rose City.
That is absolutely correct. Now, of course, there's no lead jammer, so we are going to go the full 2 minutes. And just as good things were happening from Claire to Way, she got sent to the penalty box. See if advantage can be taken. Big hit and into hyperlinks, and it looks like it was a major back block. Yes, she is getting called off. Major back block. Jammer rotation in the box another time.
Yep, we're going to see Gotham's jammer coming out. Here comes Claire DeWay, looking for some help clearing the way. 3-on-3 in the pack. Gotham is just going to let that pack get undefined. It doesn't happen, though. They stayed together, and that is a 5-point pass for Claire DeWay.
Coming back to the back of the pack again, and 3-on-3 as her teammates are behind, letting her fight her own against the 3-4 Rose.
So what they're doing is they're trying to see if they can get that no-pack call, and they are not allowed to block her during that no-pack call, which is one way that they can help their jammer get through. However, now we are back in business as that is sulfuric acid is back on the track.
Yeah, good penalty kill there and got their jammer back on, being Rose, and now the jam has called. Great stuff, and it 4 points there scored. And we are now at 80 for Gotham, 53 for Rose. And hey, we've got a timeout, but
that's
it's
an official timeout. And so that strategy, you want to make sure you are slowly, even if it is very slowly moving forward, you don't want to get called on that pack destruction, because if it's a 3-on-3, you don't want to give the other team that advantage of that additional blocker out there on that track. So I've seen it work to a disadvantage for some teams that have not been able to work it as well this weekend. However, it has worked out for Gotham's favor today.
Now, don't forget, as you're joining us here at this feature bout between Rose and Gotham, you can keep in touch with us and talk to us on the Twitter. At WFTDA Live is going to get you scores and updates. And also, if there's any issues with the feed, or you want to give us some comments back of anything going on from your perspective, we want to know so that we can improve our product for you. Also, hashtag #2 WFTDA. That is for comments for the announcers, so we're checking that, and we can read some things as they come through. And then, of course, all the information about ECDX 2012 is at hashtag ECDX2012. So Twitter us, please.
Of course, we would like to thank Philly Roller Girls for putting on the 2012 East Coast Derby Extravaganza. This is the 6th successful year the Philly Roller Girls have put on this phenomenal tournament. 3 days, 3 tracks, so much glory, so much fun to be had.
Now, Double H, I was lucky enough to go to the first 2. Then I skipped a couple years, and I've been back for the last 2, I believe, and I can't believe I missed it for those years. This is definitely one of the original events that makes Derby what it is, because not only do you have the serious great bouts like you're seeing with matchups from teams all over the place that don't normally get a chance to do that in travel, you've also got the Rink 1 challenge bouts where you've got the Chupacabras and the Sasquatches versus the, and the Waffles and Pancakes. So it's a lot of good stuff, great vendors. It's just a wonderful atmosphere.
And we should also let you know that the very first bout that I ever called was with Chip Queso right here at the very first East Coast Derby Extravaganza. I think there were probably a 10th of the amount of people watching that game as there are right here on Rink 2. But what a long way this sport has come, what a long way this tournament has come since that time in 2007, Jim.
Yeah, it's been a great thing. In fact, when you talk about that, and I'm glad that you remember that, Double H, that I was there with you, I have the privilege that I was selected by Philly before you and Eddie Spaghetti were around. They didn't have an announcer that traveled, so they asked me, because I had traveled up here with the Hustlers from Texas, and I've gotten to call for Philly before you guys came in and do it better than I did.
Oh, that is just too nice of you.
All right, looks like we're about to get started again. Whatever that was they were clearing up, we are quite a ways from the track, so difficult. We'll try to get some information. Meanwhile, we've got White Flight jamming for Rose and Susie Hot Rod, who is your lead jammer for Gotham.
Again, Gotham has been jamming A variety of different skaters today. We have not seen Brazilian Nut. She is not skating in this particular game, but they have been jamming cleared the way. She had one jam. Susie Hot Rod skips through on the inside. That looks like it is a 4-point pass for her. She questions her bench. Do I call it? Yes, they said call it.
She does just about 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Double H, it seems like the clock has moved a little faster than expected here. It's just gone by, and we're already almost at the end of this first period. Gotham stretched out just a little bit on the score, but no doubt Rose will make the proper adjustments.
Both of these teams really preserving their timeouts. I really understand that strategy with the close score right now. Gotham 84, Rose City 57. Bonnie Thunders and sulfuric acid making that maneuver again on the inside through to become lead jammer.
Oh, so it happened so quickly. That is the second time. We've got to keep an eye out for it. Somebody Twitter us when they've paused it and rewound it and tell us exactly, because I have not seen that before. It looks like, from what I can tell, they're using that player on the inside and they're whipping around their body in order to get past the pack. That's what it seems like what they're doing.
That really looks a lot like a swing dancing maneuver from this angle, does it not, Chip?
It looks like they're using their player to assist them to jump around and not cause a cut. Am I right?
It absolutely, and because they are not, and it wouldn't necessarily be. It would actually be an out of bounds assist if her skates hit the out of bounds. If they hit out of bounds on the other side of that line. So you may not take an assist from a skater inbounds while you are out of bounds, but her skates did not hit the floor.
And it brings up an interesting point, because you're on that inside line. Not only can you hit a player that's in the air, you also can't hit them when they're on the other side of the line. So I think you could get yourself into some trouble against that. So that's a really interesting, smart thing that is being developed by Rose.
It is. We'll see how long it takes Gotham to get somebody within range, within proximity, to knock that play out of capability. We'll see if that's something that they work on. That's the beauty of watching these plays unfold on WIFTA.tv. And we are at 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Gotham at 84, Rose City 61. Still 3-on-3 for those timeouts. Susie Hot Rod on the jammer line against White Flight. We are going to start 3-on-2, pack advantage Gotham.
And here we go. It is jam number 18. Just about 2 minutes and change to go. Susie Hot Rod about to get, and she does lead jammer up against White Flight, who's still stuck in the pack for Rose.
Rose City breaking through. White Flight finally makes it through. Susie Hot Rod coming up against her scoring pass. We are 3-on-3 now in the pack. Nick Swagger trying to open up a lane for Susie Hot Rod.
Fisticuffs get sent off for a penalty, and that jam is called. You know, I'm going to do a little investigation here at halftime and go see if I can find out a little bit more about that maneuver. As we wind down 1 minute and 30 seconds to go, don't forget we always end on the jam, never on the period clock, as we are at 88-61. Extremely close for these two teams.
Star of Texas Bowl is our next event, a 2-day extravaganza of the best modern roller derby that can be on offer. You're going to want to see that in July. Right now, Bonnie Thunders, sulfuric acid, duking it out right now. Great three-wall at the back from Rose City. Sulfuric in the inside to become lead jammer.
Amazing move by Sulfuric as the hip pushed her all the way to the inside apex, and she kind of just did a mini apex jump to get that lead jam. Meanwhile, Bonnie Thunder's breaking through, but in control is Rose as Sulfuric Acid is about to come to the pack and score points. And she does, naturally, 5-point grand slam.
And that is J.K. Rowling going to the box for Rose City at the end there. It looks as though she was signaling to her bench that was a high block to the head, I'm sorry. And that is 4 points for Rose City. We have 16 seconds on the clock. I think we're going to be able to get off this last jam. Susie Hot Rod, White Flight. 3-on-2.
Both teams with blockers in the box. White flight around the outside, and she gets lead jam very quickly, as meanwhile Susie stuck behind Mercy, but not for long.
OMG moves Mercy out of the way for Susie to get through. Meanwhile, 3-on-2 pack advantage. Rose here.
The pace picked up a little bit. It'll be interesting if she goes ahead and calls it off, hit it in quit style. She does, instead of trying to run through more points. 4-2-0 in favor of Rose, but in favor right now, 88-69 for Gotham.
Great pack work on behalf of both of these teams, as evidenced by the score. Gotham 88, Rose City 69. This is a fantastically physical bout. An interesting new maneuver that we have not seen yet on WFTDA.tv. While Gotham 88, Rose City 69. Are you back, Chip?
I am back now, and a little bit of news from the halftime there. I ran down and start off with the unfortunate news for Rose City. It looks like a major ankle issue. She took herself off, that being Scald Eagle, but she was crying not because of the injury, because she couldn't participate in this extremely important bout. Signed a waiver not to go to the hospital. She'll deal with it on her own. We hope she's going to be okay, but she will not be playing the rest of the bout.
Right now, that is White Flight and Bonnie Thunders duking it out. That is a 2-on-3 pack. I'm sorry, that's a 2-on-2 pack.
Bonnie Thunders makes it through for lead jam for for Gotham. There's a slip of the tongue.
I think you're actually announcing a bout that was in the past on this rink. Meanwhile, Bonnie tries to get through on the outside to pick up a couple of points. That's 3 points for Gotham, and that is nothing right now for Rose City.
Also, when we get a second here, 30 seconds between is not going to be enough time. I got a little bit of insight, and maybe can even educate you a little bit on our secret move, which Double H, I'm sorry to tell you, it's apparently been coined. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
I figured it would have been, knowing sulfuric acid, who's coming up against Susie Hot Rod right now. Susie finds the outside line and gets a major track cut for it.
So sulfuric acid has the ability to take advantage. She goes through. She does get lead. So a little bit of the medicine that Rose City needs to cure the ills of being down in the score. Coming back around quickly, makes it through, avoids a hit. Grand slam, Rose.
These are the kinds of opportunities that Rose City needs to be really taking advantage of here. And it looks like musical chairs there for Rose City blockers. One out, pivot back on the track.
Amazing moves. Sulfuric acid did a 180 on one skate. She got hit, stayed in bounds, and she's back in for more. Slowing down as the floor wall for Gotham trying to hold players going down. Sulfuric cutting back and forth laterally. 3-wall up front.
Joyride and JK Rowling do a good job slicing up that wall for their jammer. But Gotham is doing a good job reconvening. Sulfuric acid looks like she's getting tired in the back there. This is a very physical jam for her.
9:34 Rose City going to the penalty box. Susie Hot Rod back on the track. Sulfuric acid already in control, scoring points. Looks like she's trying to gather maybe a few more. Of course, Susie has not made her initial pass, so they let her go ahead and go.
Mercy and Joyride tried their best to keep Susie behind them. They are the only two Rose City blockers on the track right now. Sulfuric calls it. And that is 4 points for Rose City on that pass. Gotham 91, Rose City 83. Chip Queso, 27-ish minutes on that clock.
Yeah, absolutely no doubt. And again, expected this to happen, a very close matchup between two powerhouses from opposite coasts. Again, Gotham in their black with white accents, red logo, and Rose City in their white, black bottoms, and purple accents.
Bonnie Thunders and White Flight. Bonnie Thunders working on that 3-wall, doing it now a 2-wall, and she wrecks it apart at the front to become lead jammer for Gotham.
Bonnie Thunder's about as thin as a pencil, able to squeeze through when she turns lateral It's like a roach between a crack. She can make it through just about any pack.
Great defense up at the front from Rose City. Can't keep Bonnie Thunders behind them, though. That is another 5 points there for Gotham.
Out of the pack is White Flight, but damage already being done for Gotham as they are up now 96 to 83, 26 minutes of change. As that jam is called.
Another 4 points for Gotham on that one. 26 minutes, Gotham 100 to Rose City 83. Gotham did take one timeout in the first period. Scald Eagle, of course, gone. Scald Eagle has been prolific for Rose City all season. She posted 78 points of her own when Rose City took on Chicago and won by 3 points earlier this season.
Jammers have been released. Susie Hot Rod, White Flight, one player in the penalty box for Rose. Round the outside getting lead jam is Susie Hot Rod for Gotham.
And that is sulfuric acid for Rose City, who has made it through and is trying to close in on Susie Hot Rod as the pack walls it up. 3-wall at the back. Great defense at the back. No point gain for either of them, though.
As that jam is called, and my apologies on missing the jammers. They've only had a 2-jammer rotation with the exception of Scald Eagle, who again is not playing. So 2 jammers. It's either White Flight or sulfuric acid at this point for Rose. Gotham mixing it up quite a bit more. And now White Flight is back on the line for Rose up against
Bonnie Thunders for Gotham. I do think we're going to see Bonnie Thunders and Susie Hot Rod jammed a little bit more heavily. Gotham is looking for some insurance. Bonnie gets recycled really nicely there by Rose City, but makes it through on the outside to become lead jammer. Great defensive work by Rose City today, Chip.
Not lost a step and gained probably more. The MVP from last year's champs, Bonnie Thunder, doing damage for Gotham as the pack has crawled to a stop in turn 3.
Frankenherder part of that wall, as is White Flight, Rose City's jammer. She finally is moving forward, trying to get through that pack again, and it looks like she is getting called. Now we have a call, a block to the head major call.
That was Havana Good Time. Yep. And another blocker going to the penalty box. Oh no, that is Havana.
Yep.
And now one for 73, and that is Frankenherder.
Bonnie Thunders slicing through that pack left and right for 5 points.
Gotham starting to pour it on here a little bit, 110 to 83. Adjustments have been made. We have not seen the move yet from Rose, but I don't know if that's going to be as effective until they can get a little bit closer. And it looks like White Flight is down. She is not getting up, on her back, hurt, and we are going to have the EMTs run to the track.
That was fisticuffs screaming for a call there. She saw the injury and wanted the jam called off immediately. No one ever likes to see an injury, of course. She's not very happy. Fisticuffs is very upset right now, but
yeah, she's there with Buster Cheaton and Bonnie Thunders trying to calm down. I don't know what she saw or what she did, but the concern is about White Flight on the track.
Absolutely. This is the second Rose City skater to go down in this game. Previously, Scald Eagle was taken out of the game.
Never want to see any skater down. Some of the most amazing things about the world of roller derby is that when the whistles blow and the action on the track, it is a pure battle. But as soon as something like this happens or the bout is over, everybody's friends and family and cares deeply about each other. It's an absolutely amazing, not only a family feel, it's a lifestyle. As unfortunately we see the backboard being brought out here, that is not a good sign.
It does look like the EMTs are bringing out the board just to be safe. She does appear to be aware and moving.
They are stabilizing her head, and we do know, and they are actually sitting her up. That is a very, very good sign. And now they are parting the ways. It looks like we are going to have a little bit of a break here because this looks to be a little more serious. They are moving audience members to make a clear pathway to the outer door. And nope, she is up. That is much better.
Philly Roller Girls does an excellent job with the East Coast Derby Extravaganza, making sure that the EMTs are right where they need to be when they need to be there. And as we've seen, unfortunately, a few times this weekend already, we have needed them. And unfortunately for Rose City, we have needed them twice.
Great stuff in the sense that I went down and talked to him and asked him what I could ask him and what information I could find out about Scald Eagle. And at the end, I thanked them for what they did, and they thanked me back for being there. So it tells you what it's like here, the atmosphere, but they're very important to us, and we could not do the events literally without them, obviously, but their volunteer and their time is very important. Safety number one.
Susie Hot Rod and sulfuric acid getting ready to get back into it. Gotham 115, Rose City 83 with 23 minutes left on that clock. 23:07 to be exact.
Jam number 6 of the second period. It'll be interesting to see after this jam what they're going to do with the jammer rotation, but right now playing very defensively is sulfuric acid on Susie Hot Rod. She's working away, goes around the outside, and is lead jam.
That was great defensive work on the outside, though, from French Tickler, and that is sulfuric acid going to the penalty box. I did not see the call. This is now a power jam for Gotham Girls Roller Derby All-Stars.
Fourth minor, major forearm was the call. She's going to spend a minute in the box. Meanwhile, 5 points for Gotham. As another player blocker going for Rose City.
Frankenherder coming out of the box for Rose City. Meanwhile, the French Tickler going to the box for Rose City.
So penalties starting to affect Rose very much so here. 5 more points for Susie Hot Rod as the pack has not moved. Now number 81 gets called out. That, of course, is Havana Good Time. So Rose City starting to slightly fall apart here.
Two-walling it up at the front. Rose City, Joyride, Frankenherder, trying to put the hurt on Susie Hot Rod. She is through, though, for another 5 points. Susie keeping her head down, just working on it bit by bit.
135 to 83 currently, and still a little bit of time, 23 seconds to go, and taking advantage still is Susie Hot Rod as she gets 5 more points racked up.
And that is Hyperlinks coming out of the box for Gotham. And that is a clockwise block.
Oh, and
sending Joyride to the penalty box.
And that was definitely the biggest jam of the night for Gotham, care of great jamming and even better defense from Susie Hot Rod.
I think one of the things that we need to express well here, Chip, is that there aren't fast-moving packs here right now, but there is so much going on within these packs. There is so much physicality happening. There's so much to look at. The referees, the officiating staff here is doing a great job picking it all apart. There's a lot to look at. Chip and I are calling through this very slowly because there is a lot going on. There are a lot of penalties right now on both sides. Rose City coming into this jam down, it looks like a 3-2 pack. We're going to start pack advantage Gotham.
Looks like we're about to line it up again, but still a timeout situation. Waiting to get started again. Jam number 7 here in period number 2.
That, of course, was Rose City's first timeout. Both teams now have 2 timeouts left for the rest of the game. We have 21 minutes and 7 seconds, and Bonnie Thunders is lining up at the back to take her intentional 4th minor to clear away her minors for the next jam. Claire D. Way jamming for Gotham. JK rolling in her first jam of the night for Rose City. That is lead jammer for Gotham. This is an opportunity for both of these teams to show the depth of their roster right here as Mel Mangles goes to the penalty box for Rose City.
JK trying to kill that and forces her to call it off, and no points scored. Looked like some hips were passed, but not in the referee eyes, so.
And not on the outside. Claire wisely called it because she spun back on the track. That could have easily been a track cut for her. Gotham wants to stay away from penalties now. Of course, so does Rose City, who have been down Scald Eagle and potentially White Flight. We will get more information on her status coming up. Sulfuric Acid, Susie Hot Rod. 3-on-2, pack advantage Gotham.
Both jammers fighting to get through. Susie Hot Rod goes down quick and then back up care of Mercy, but then works the inside apex, makes it through. She is your lead jam for Gotham.
Kit Cassidy heading to the penalty box for Rose City. This is not what Rose wants to see, but they do want to see Sulfuric Acid make it through the package. She finally does her initial pass. Mercy now the lone white and purple. Actually, right now out of the box, Joyride to help her as Susie Hot Rod calls it.
And trying to get a pin, or trying to get a big hit. It looks like Mercy was called out, but they waved her back on, so maybe it was not a penalty. I thought it was going to be a low block, but needless to say, we're going to line it up here for the next jam.
Gotham All-Stars 149, Rose City Wheels of Justice 83, 1907 on that clock. Bonnie Thunders, who took her intentional fourth a bit ago, is on the line for Gotham.
And that looks like that is JK again for Rose. 9:34 is, of course, lead jammer already declared.
Yes, Bonnie Thunders.
Yes, you did say that.
Yes, we did. Through, getting forced to the inside. Great work by Devourer on the inside there.
Bonnie Thunders avoiding the cut and having to re-engage from the back. Big hit on JK and through quickly. 5 more points, Bonnie Thunders.
Spread out pack here. Mercy working on Bonnie Thunders at the front. It looks as though there was a no pack situation. I didn't see an out of play call. Yes, now Mercy is headed to the box. So perhaps there was a Q situation. There is now space for her in that box.
Meanwhile, Bonnie Thunders continuing to rack up points through one more time, 5 more points, as the pack still between turns 3 and 4 has not moved for the last few rotations, as JK finally getting through until a huge hit.
That was Sexy Slady. Great work from Sexy Slady on the outside.
Oh, and it looks like she is going to the penalty box. No, I'm sorry, that's Anabolics going to the penalty box. Did not see the infraction there. Great defensive work as Bonnie Thunder makes it through yet another time. Racking up the grand slams is Gotham.
Bonnie Thunder's taking a look at her bench to make sure she's doing the right thing, always checking back with her bench. She calls it. That is something that Gotham is really good at, bench to jammer communication, something that is absolutely vital.
Now Rob Lobster running immediately out there again, looking for some clarification, fighting for his team to see what he can get, any advantage. A lot of sports, they call it talking in the ref's ear. Maybe we'll see something here in the next jam. That's what a good coach does, and he is definitely one of those. But lining up again, and it is great to see White Flight back on, and she is up against...
That is Slam to Phage. She is one of the more prolific recently for Gotham. Very, very sparingly used. Now she is out in front. She is not lead jammer. That is a forearm minor that kept her from being lead jammer. Meanwhile, White Flight still has yet to break the pack on her initial pass.
Got knocked out, Kara Swagger there. And White Flight biding her time, now up against 2, makes an inside move. Does finally get through, called lead jammer. And she is making her way around as we do have a power jam situation care of or for Rose City. see if they can take advantage of that, and she gets through quickly again, 5 points.
And that is another Gotham skater lost to a forearm major. Anabolics back out of the box for Gotham. White Flight comes up against OMG.
Oh, and they're going to have to let her go, but no. It is. They had to let her go out of play penalty.
And that is Sweet Cherry Pie who incurred that penalty.
Only 4 out of the 5 points, but she is still going as we've got 40 seconds left in this jam.
Anabolics headed back to the penalty box. This is now a 4-on-1 pack. I apologize. It's a 3-on-1 pack as the Blast Unicorn heads to the penalty box. A revolving door here. Slam DeFage coming up against that 3-wall.
Now she is back out of the pack. Both jammers on, but 5 more points for Rose. They are up to over 100, 102 to 174. There is 14 minutes. It can happen. Let's see what Rose is doing. Is in control, and calling it off is White Flight.
If we have not stressed how physical this game is, viewing it in person, it is phenomenally physical. It is slow moving, but it is one of the rougher I've seen this weekend.
We've got all the coaches out on the track. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like there was a timeout, but coaches are definitely on the track. Buster Cheaton out there talking to his players. And here we go again.
Bonnie Thunders and sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid, she is not lead jammer. That is a forearm minor she incurred. Bonnie Thunders is lead jammer. We are a 3-on-2 pack advantage Rose.
Oh, and Bonnie decides not to call it off, so points scored by Sulfuric. It looks like she almost put her hands to her hips. That would have been an illegal procedure. She tried to call it off, and now finally called off.
That is a 4-point pass for Bonnie Thunders.
So she waited to match some points there, even though sulfuric acid was coming back up to the pack.
WFTDA.TV would like to thank Turn 2 Skate Shop. Turn 2 Portland, Maine's for the skater, by the skater shop. Turn2skateshop.com. We are really grateful to our sponsors for helping us put this amazing event together with the broadcast of the East Coast Derby Extravaganza 2012 live from Feasterville. And that is Hyperlinks on the jammer line for the first time.
So we've got a timeout called on Gotham. Well, now while we've got maybe a minute or two, let's go back, although we haven't seen it this period, but we can go back to the amazing play that Rose City was doing earlier. So basically what they're doing, as much as you love your jitterbug, it's called the peg assist.
Ha!
The peg assist.
Very
and
clever.
Basically what the jammer is doing is the jammer is literally jumping out of play on the inside, and her player that is lined up at the line right there is literally, when she's in the air, pulling her back into the track. So she's not holding on to her player to assist her, she's jumping out, her player is grabbing her and pulling her on. So very smart, because you cannot hit the player while they're in the air. She's not committing a cut because she starts with her feet on the ground, inside, and then they can't hit her also because they could potentially be hitting a player out of bounds. So I hope we get to see that again, but I hope you made some notes. That is exactly what Rose City is doing. The peg assist is that new play we saw earlier.
Very risky play, but it has been executed successfully twice so far.
Well, and you also have to have two things right. You've got to have an agile, probably light player, smaller jammer, and you've got to have a blocker or somebody with strength that can pull her in to make sure that's successful. So start working on that out there. We'll see who tries that next. Meanwhile, the jam is on. We're down to 137. Players sent to the box. Jammers have not been released until now.
Sulfuric acid and Bonnie Thunders jamming. Bonnie Thunders finds the outside line to become lead jammer for Gotham.
Hot on her heels is Sulfuric, but Bonnie Thunders gets through, and oh, not before. She didn't take the advantage, so looks like they're going to go around again. Then jammer on jammer action, Double H.
4 points for sulfuric acid there. 4 points for Bonnie Thunders. We're 4 on 4.
113 to 185. Just about 12 minutes to go. Period number 1. The pack has slowed down as the jammers approach.
Bonnie Thunders calls it as she hits the back of the pack. That is no points for Bonnie Thunders. 2 points. 3 points for Rose City. Clarification from the jammer ref. Bonnie Thunders questioning that play, it looks like. Really not sure. She has excellent bench communication about every 2 seconds when she's jamming. Her head is moving. She's got that swivel going.
No doubt about it, and that's why she's one of the top players in the country. Because we've got JK for Rose, and it looks like Hyperlinks for Gotham as the jammers.
Now this is the true scrum start. Both of these teams mashed together. Hyperlinks finds herself behind a wall. It was a 3-wall, now a 2-wall. Great work on the outside. She finally makes it through.
In control and calling it off is JK, and just before that, Mercy had gone to the pinch for a penalty, so they're going to be down a blocker on the next jam.
Gotham 185 with 1 timeout left. Rose City 119 with 2. 10 minutes and 40 seconds left in the second period. And Chip, I understand the Pegacorns, if it is the Pegassist, the Pegacorns are the fan mascot group of the Rose City Rollers. So clearly an homage to the Pegacorn.
That would be
the Pegasus.
Absolutely correct.
Bonnie Thunders and White Flight.
White Flight quickly through, getting lead jam. So great to see her go from what we thought could have been a devastating injury to being as agile as ever and getting lead jam for Rose, but coming up about a half a track away is Bonnie Thunders.
And White Flight gets out in front for 4 points and calls it.
If you are a fan of basketball, that was basically the equivalent of a crossover move there by White Flight. Very, very nice to see. Again, as we get down to about 9 minutes and change, 123 to 185. Again, we are so happy you're joining us here on WFTDA.TV at the ECDX2012. That's a bunch of letters.
It has been a long weekend as well. Hyperlinks back on that jammer line against sulfuric acid. Sulfuric lead jammer. Hyperlinks getting forced out of bounds. Great defense work at the back by having a good time. And that looks like a block to the head, forcing Hyperlinks to the penalty box. This is a power jam for Rose City. Sulfuric acid, a 60-point difference here.
Yeah, with 9 minutes to go, Double H, that is not insurmountable. 5 points there. Grand slam for Rose. If you're at home and you're a Rose fan, give the mojo. They needed to get back in this. And, of course, we want a close game. It goes around outside untouched. 5 more points.
And now Bonnie Thunders going to the penalty box. It looked like a forearm. I couldn't tell if it was a fourth or a major. But that is Donna Matrix coming out from the penalty box. She gets forced to the inside, not happy. Sulfuric acid calls it.
Smart, because she called it. 1, because she was rather winded. 2, knowing that she could start jammer, or where Gotham was jammerless on the line. So smart play and a little bit of a shift here. 138 to 185. Rose is picking away at that lead for Gotham.
That's a great opportunity for them to start this as a power jam when they have the pack advantage. They have a full complement of blockers out there. Gotham only has 2.
And White Flight around, untouched before she gets to the jammer line. Lead jam, Double H.
Right past fisticuffs and Nick Swagger.
That's the 4th lead jam in a row for Rose City, as White Flight has to re-engage, getting knocked out of bounds, having to go back behind the 3-wall defensively for Gotham.
OMG back from the box. Now we're 3 on 4. Swagger forcing White Flight to the inside, but not before White Flight comes back out.
White Flight working her way around, and now, of course, hyperlinks through on her first pass. Approaching quickly, but going ahead and calling it off smartly was White Flight and Rose City.
Really good defensive work by Gotham. Down a pack advantage at the beginning of that jam. That could have been a great opportunity. White Flight shaking her head as she goes to the bench.
We've also picked it up here a little bit with 7 minutes to go. The first period, we only had, I believe, 20 or 21 jams. We're already at jam 17 in the second period, so we're going to probably exceed 25, 26 jams here.
So that's Claire DeWay and sulfuric acid, and what you can't see, there you can now. Susie Hot Rod takes her intentional fourth minor going to the box. Meanwhile, Bonnie Thunders comes back out. Claire DeWay getting knocked out on the outside.
Great defensive shifting by Gotham, battling against the pivot of Rose, but helps her out, gets lead jam. Sulfuric acid, that is for Rose. Meanwhile, being called off the track, looks like it is a major
low block. Or was that an insubordination?
insubordination?
I'm sorry, from this angle. That is an insubordination. We will have to find out what was happening there.
What's going to be interesting is they know that Susie took that poodle in order to, cougar poodle, whatever you want to call it, in order to be the next jammer. I wonder if they're going to call this off with time in order to get that advantage on the next jam. It'll be interesting.
Sulfuric acid getting knocked to the outside by Sexy Slady. Calls it. Sexy Slady getting knocked out just after her. A big, big hit. And this is an opportunity now for sulfuric acid for actually Rose City. And it looks like that opportunity is going to go to White Flight to start this as a power jam, Chip.
And look at that, 146 to 185, creeping so much closer. 5 minutes of change to go with the powerhouses of offense that these teams are. Easily, we could see Rose get back into it, but we're going to have to see if White Flight can take that advantage. Now Susie Hot Rod is back in, but it is as a pivot serving her penalty, so we're going to have to wait for the next one, and White Flight gets through around the outside. Lead jam Rose City.
OMG cannot quite catch her on the outside. Now we're 4-on-3, pack advantage Gotham, but this is a power jam. Rink 2 is hushed as everybody's paying attention. Susie Hot Rod knocks White Flight out. Slowly comes in behind, and that is Claire DeWay back.
Yeah, she's back on. Interesting to see how both these jammers are having to kind of use their mentals to figure out where the holes are going to be, because they know they just can't come in and get through those packs. As finally making it through is Claire DeWay, but that jam is called.
And that appears to be Mercy going to the box, shaking her head on a major call at turn 2.
147 to 185, so only one small point there, but a point is a point. They needed a few more of those with 4 minutes and ticking on the clock, already going into the 41st jam, 40th or 41st jam of this bout.
Again, Rose City being very economical with their timeouts. They have 2 left, Sulfuric Acid and Bonnie Thunders. Bonnie Thunders, lead jammer for Gotham. Full complement of Gotham blockers. Frankenherder out of the box.
Sulfuric out and eligible, but Bonnie Thunders has control up against 2, gets past that quickly and then calls it off. Smart play, better jamming from Bonnie Thunders.
That was Mel Mangles and Frankenherder. That 2-wall, great 2-walls today from Rose City, I have to say. They've done a tremendous job keeping Gotham at bay. This is one of the tightest scores we've seen between Gotham and anybody in a really long time. Gotham 189, Rose City 147. Again, 3 minutes left. Rose City has those 2 timeouts. We'll see how they play them. Susie Hot Rod on the jammer line, White Flight.
All the blockers down on their knees. They're going to release the jammers immediately there. Now it's the skills of the ladies with the stars on their helmets. Haven't even gotten to the pivot line as yet. It's like a, well, there you go. Couldn't think of the analogy, so I'm going to talk about her being lead jam, and that is Susie Hot Rod. Meanwhile, White Flight gets called off for can't see the call. The referee's facing the other way. We'll let you know in a second here, but needless to say, multiplayer block. Not often called on a jammer, but that's what you see. Advantage Gotham.
This is not what Rose City wanted to see with just a few minutes left in this game. A power jam. Susie Hot Rod, a 5-point pass. Coming around on the inside behind Mercy.
Skelio Devour going to the penalty box for Rose City.
Susie Hot Rod and Mercy going toe-to-toe. Great work by Mercy. Has to stay within 20 feet, though. Has to let her go. We are 3-on-3 in the pack. Look at how Gotham's lining up with 2 on the outside, 1 on the inside. They're going to let their jammer duke it out.
1:37 to go here in this period. 35 seconds or so in the jam.
French Tickler trying to bridge. Doesn't work out for her. That is a 5-point pass for Bonnie Thunders.
Clock is easily the enemy of Rose at this point.
Susie Hot Rod. Which jam am I watching? Susie Hot Rod.
White flight back on for Rose, but quite an uphill battle, and again, not enough time to probably do what they need to, but not giving up the fight is Rose, as we are down to about a minute on the period clock.
Great physical work at the front with Mercy. Susie Hot Rod comes back in but stops herself, so that was not an out-of-bounds block. She does her own blocking at the end there. That is 2:09. Let's try that again. 2:13 Gotham. Rose City 1:47 again. Rose has those 2 times out, but we've got 40 seconds left in this period.
Yeah, not a lot that you can really do with those timeouts unless you want to work on something here for the last, jam or something.
Like a Pegasus.
Like a Pegasus, but at this point, I'm not sure they'd even want to do that to reveal what they're going to make the teams go back and have to watch it. And they used that strategy. It wouldn't have helped them anyway, but needless to say, your lead jammer is sulfuric acid. Getting a minor forearm out front was Bonnie Thunders, but in control. And what are they going to do? She's going to call it off, and I bet you that timeout is going to be used. And, well, there you have it.
All right, Rose City getting that timeout, taking that timeout. Right now, we'd like to take timeout to thank Rose City for their sponsorship of WFTDA.TV. They are sponsoring a Derby Days boot camp. A boot camp by the Rose City Rollers, August 24th through 26th in Portland, Oregon. Visit rosecityrollers.com to learn more about Derby Days.
Definitely take advantage if you have the ability to do that. And again, we are so happy you've joined us here all weekend as we are about to finish and wind down this bout between the powerhouses from the East and West, Gotham and Rose. But there is still more upcoming. After this bout, you can switch over and you can watch AZRD going up against Steel City, and then tune back into this bout, rank 2, for Charm versus Boston, an East Coast extravaganza matchup, if I can use it that way.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, finishing off with the Stars and Stripes from Team USA.
And the jam is away. Bonnie Thunders, I'm sorry, we are still in timeout. That was the timeout clock. Sulfuric acid on the outside, lead jammer.
So I think what they're going to do is we're going to see probably a whole 2-minute jam unless she gets too winded, unless the defense can stop them, and they're just going to try to go out on as much of a winning note with the bout in the hands of Gotham.
Sulfuric acid gonna try her best. Sexy Slady gives her a little shove on the way through. That is a 4-point pass.
Matched by 4 points, so no advantage there, but controlled by Rose. Is basically a minute, 15 seconds left in the jam. Period clock is done.
They're gonna go out in a blaze of glory. Tight pack.
Now making it through is Bonnie, of course, getting 4 points. Getting stuck is Sulfuric, calls it off, gets a point, and there you have it. That is the bout. Let's wait for an official final.
Absolutely, we're gonna take a second to thank Fast Girl Skates, the world's first brick and mortar store. We make skates for you, fastgirlskates.com. We'd also like to thank Blood and Thunder magazine, dedicated to the modern revival of roller derby, bloodandthundermag.com. And Wicked Skatewear. Allegedly, Wicked Skatewear claims they peed in the pool here at ECDX, but I have not been to the pool yet. WickedSkatewear.com, I will believe them and stay out of the pool, Chip Queso.
You know they have a chemical you can buy for that next year, but knowing this crowd...
For Wicked Skatewear?
Well, for the pool out there, but knowing that crowd, I'm not sure I'd want to have that chemical in the pool, if you know what I'm referring to. But anyway...
It is nearing the end of the day here in Feasterville. We have been bringing you live coverage all weekend long on WFTDA.tv. You will be able to view these archives for free, Chip Queso, starting this week. And what a cornucopia, what a smorgasbord of amazing bouts from the weekend you have to choose from. You have some beautiful bouts that have happened during the last few days. Montreal Charm is one of them that comes to mind. Really fantastic stuff. Montreal lost to Texas the first evening. Texas, 2 fabulous wins from the Texecutioners, 1 over Montreal, 1 over Philly. Philly winless out of the ECDX. They lost to both Texas and earlier today to Denver Mile High Club. Denver, of course, won 1 bout to Philly and lost 1 to Gotham. So Gotham up 2 from this weekend. All of these bouts available for free. Archives coming this week. If you would like to own these bouts, you may purchase them coming soon on the WFTDA.com store, in the WFTDA store on WFTDA.com, along with East Coast Derby Extravaganza